Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Front-End Frameworks Showdown. In our previous episode, we explored reactivity in Angular, React, Svelte and Vue. In today's episode, we will be exploring props, passing data to child component. Let's start with Angular. Open your Angular project with Visual Studio Code. Now we want to create a props in our Vue component and we want to pass data from our app component. To do that, we will have to import input decorator from Angular core. Using that decorator, we will have to declare a property of Vue component class. Now we will have to create the class property. I will name it dummy and I will give it a value dummy value. Now we will show this data into our template. I will take an h2 tag. Inside this, I will use text interpolation to show the data. Now let's run our Angular server. Open your application into browser and we can see dummy props value, dummy value. It is our default props value. And now we want to pass data from app component. To do that, we will have to declare the dummy props just like HTML attribute, and inside this we can pass any value from app. Well, this is showing value from app. Now we want to pass a reactive data, or we want to pass a JavaScript variables data to the child component. To do that, we will have to use square bracket and we will have to wrap the props name into the square bracket. Then we can pass any JavaScript variable here. So in our case, it will be a class property. So we have a class property name title. Let's check it. Now it is showing dummy props value in the app because in our app component.ts title have value of ng-app. Now if you bind this title property to a form and if you make any changes, then this value will also change. So that's how we can create a props and use props in Angular. Now let's open our React application. In our React application, we will not have to declare anything. Each component have a parameter. Its first parameter will be props, and props will be a object, and each props name will be key and its passing value will be its value. So if we pass any property named dummy, we can access that dummy props by using props dummy, and we will be able to access that value of this props. For more simplicity, we can use object destructure to implicitly declare our props value, and by this you can also make default value to your props. Let's declare it dummy equal default value, and we will use this dummy into our JSX syntax here. Well, let's change this JS to JSX. Now if we write h2 tag, then dummy props value is dummy. Let's run our React application and we can see dummy props value, default value. Now we want to pass a value from our app component because we are calling Vue component from app component. So here you can write dummy and you can pass any value, maybe static value, and now you can see it changed to static value. Now if you want to bind any value to the dummy, then let's declare variable dynamic value. So now we don't have to use the quotation, we can use curly brackets and we can pass the variable to this, and using these curly brackets we can bind any dynamic value as props into our component. Now let's check it and you can see here we have dynamic value. Now if you create a state using use state hook, then you can bind that value to this also, and if you make any changes to the reactive state, then your Vue component will update and you will see the reflection of changes here. Now let's open our Svelte application and in Svelte application, if we want to declare any props, then we will have to use export keyword, then let to declare the variable, and here we will give the props name, and if you want you can give assign a default value. I will assign it default value, and now we can use this dummy value into our DOM. Let's is to dummy props value, and it is dummy. Now let's run our Bit server and you can see this is our Bit application where dummy props value default value. Well, dummy props value default value. Now we want to pass data to the dummy props from the page component, and we can do that by same thing we can follow here as React. I will pass static value and you can see it is rendering static value. Now let's declare a variable here, const dynamic value equal dynamic value, and we can pass this dynamic value just like React and it will be updated. And same thing goes here if you assign any reactive data here, and if that reactive data changes over the time, then your user interface will be automatically updated. Now let's jump into Vue application. To declare a props into Vue's application, we have three ways. I am using setup script, so I will have to write define props. It is a macro, and here we can use object syntax. Maybe I will write dummy, and then it will take object. It will have a property name type, and I will have to give it a value string. Then if I want to set any default, then I will have to assign its default value. And now we can use these dummy props into our template. Well, that's it. Dummy props value will be default value. Let's run our Vue.js application, and you can see dummy props value default value. Now we want to pass the props from our app component. We can do that by writing dummy, and here we can pass a static value, and you can see it is rendering static value. Now if we want to assign any dynamic value here, then we can declare it by const dynamic value equal maybe rep dynamic value, and let's remove the static value, and here before the props name we will have to write a colon. That's it. Now our application should render dynamic value. Even if you just don't want to use this rep, you don't want reactivity, you want to use any simple JavaScript variable value to the props, you can do that by JS value that will also render. Well, now let's talk about another way of defining props. We can define props using array of props name. If we just provide array of props name, then it will also work, but it will have lack of type support. And if you are using TypeScript, then you can pass types of your props, and using this syntax here you can pass any types, maybe dummy string. Using this syntax you can create props in script setup, or if you are using options API, then you will have to write declare the props into props option. So that's how we can handle props in those four applications. In our next episode we will learn how we can pass data from child component to parent component, or how child component can communicate with parents component. So stay tuned. I will see you in the next episode.